Greetings, fellow book lovers, and welcome back to Colin's Corner. So, I see the beginning of the year, a lot of people doing these series I want to continue videos, series I want to finish videos in the upcoming year, which would now be 2024. I see them every year, and I always wonder, how can you be in the middle of so many series? I admire it, being able to keep track of all that. And I keep thinking to myself, man, I could never do it. And then I took a second to think about all the series I'm in the middle of. And, well, let's just say we're going to go over it today. Now, of course, as always, before we get into the video, we are going to go over the answer for the last Comedy with Colin segment where I asked you guys the joke, where do polar bears keep their money? The answer? In snowbanks. Alright, with that out of the way, I just want to go over a few things about this. I threw this together last minute, just yanking books off my shelf, trying to figure out exactly how many series I am in the middle of, or near the end of, or whatever it may be. So I'm just going to go over where I'm at in the series, maybe talk about the next book that I'm going to read, and try to tell you guys if I plan on finishing this series in 2024 or if I just want to make some progress in the series. So without anything further, let's get into this. One more thing. This is in no particular priority order. These are just the books in the order that I grabbed them off the shelf. Alright, so the first series we're going to go over is The Rain Wilds Chronicles. This is the third book, City of Dragons, in the Rain Wilds tetralogy by Robin Hobb. And so with this, I will have, including this, 5 books left to finish out my Realm of the Elderlings journey. Now, I have not read the Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince yet, so I have not read the novella. But I do plan on that. I've kind of been saving that as like a little snack after I finish the series because I know I'm going to want to come back and visit it. And I know it isn't necessarily 100% necessary to read that to understand the plot of the series. It's just some extra. So I'm saving that. But so far in the Rain Wilds Chronicles, I am enjoying it. It is, and I won't harp on this because I've already mentioned it a couple of times, but it is my least favorite subset of the Realm of the Elderlings series as a whole so far. It's not because it's bad by any means. I'm still really enjoying it. Now, Dragon Keeper, I had just not a lot of interests in the characters of the very first book. And I really liked the plot, but the characters not connecting with me kind of held me back from really loving that first book. Now, my engagement with the characters, my interest in following their character arcs and all of that definitely grew with Dragon Haven. So I am excited to see where Robin Hobb is going to take this third book. And I think that because of a publishing issue, books 1 and 2 were a really long book that maybe got kind of just cut in half and some stuff was added. And it sort of felt like that a little bit to me. But again, I love Robin Hobb's writing, so I really enjoyed it. And I cannot wait to see where we end up in the Rain Wilds Chronicles. Next up, we have Equal Rights. This is the third Discworld book by Terry Pratchett. I might not start with this one. I do own the first 9 of them chronologically because I just started picking them up at Barnes & Noble and they don't have anything. They don't have the 10th book. They just have kind of random ones, like the popular ones, more things like that. But like I said, I don't know if this will be the one that I read. I might read more. I might read Guards. But I definitely need to get back to Discworld because I loved Terry Pratchett's humor, and most people say that, and I've only read the first 2 books so far, so I've read The Color of Magic and The Light Fantastic. Most people say that those are by far the least good books in the series, but I loved them. So if that's any indicator on where I will end up falling in Discworld, then I don't know why I'm dragging my feet. I feel like Terry Pratchett has the potential to become one of my favorite authors if I just dig into some of these books. And I think the reason that I haven't read any more is because I keep thinking to myself, there's 41 of them. I can get to them whenever. It doesn't matter when I pick them up or which ones I pick up. And because of that, it keeps getting set aside. So I need to include it in this video so that I remember to get to more Discworld books. All right, next up we have, and I'm going to hold both of these guys up, see if they focus. Bada boom, Memories of Ice, which is the one I'm on. As you can see, I'm nearing the end. And next up in the Malazan Book of the Fallen will be House of Chains, Book 4. So our Discord and our group that we are doing this read-along with had very lofty aspirations to begin this read-along. We were all super excited. We're like, yeah, we're going to do a book a month with a discussion at the end of the month. And I got to be honest, I mean, I'm loving this. Don't get me wrong. I'm pouring tons of hours into reading these books, but they are so long and we're all kind of in different places with the read-along. So I actually really enjoy that it's become more of a leisurely read-along, and we will have a discussion when we all finish. And we're all pretty generally close together, but we're not stressing about it, which is really nice. This is getting insane, and there was an event that happened in Memories of Ice that felt like the end of any other fantasy novel I would have read, and it happened right in the middle. So I was just bewildered, and I continue to be astounded by Erikson's ability as a storyteller to craft this narrative and these characters and this humor and these themes that are just so rich throughout all aspects of his novels. And one of the most exciting things about Malazan is I genuinely have no idea where this series is going. I've said it before, I will say it again. Every time I feel like Erikson ratchets up the intensity level a little bit more, and I start to think, man, there's just no way it can get any crazier than this. All of a sudden, it's like a full turn, and my mind's just blown. So I'm so glad that I finally started this journey, and like I said, we're taking it slowly. We are not leisurely, but we're not being strict about when we're going to have these discussions or when we need to have the books read by. And I think that that is all for the better in terms of my experience, my enjoyment of the series. So I'm hoping, and this I probably almost certainly will not finish the Malazan Book of the Fallen in 2024, but I would like to, if I had to guesstimate, so since we're on 3, we'll be starting 4, I'd like to be at maybe 6 or 7, hopefully by the end of the year. I'm not sure which books those are because I don't know them that well yet, but we will certainly be continuing the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and for those of you that have read it, please join us when we do announce our discussion, which will be a spoiler-filled discussion for Memories of Ice. Alright, next up, guys, we have... boom. A Dance with Dragons, the last book available in A Song of Ice and Fire. This will be book 5. For those of you that may be new to the channel, because we have a lot of new people recently, which is absolutely wonderful, you may not know that this is my very first time reading A Song of Ice and Fire. I've seen the show, I've not read the books. So I am kind of, I've done so far like a mixture of reading them physically, some of them on audio, and needless to say, again, this is another pillar of the fantasy genre. If you're a fantasy fan, you know that George R.R. Martin is a master of his craft, and specifically with this genre, and man, does it just shine through in his storytelling. It is so much fun to read these novels that, and for the most part, the chapters are relatively short, but man, the way he has a talent to leave these chapters on cliffhangers is so addicting. Man, I think I'm done reading for the night, or I think I'm done listening, and I'll flip the page and I'll see the next character that I didn't even realize I wanted to see. Like, it's just, I'll get so wrapped up in whatever characters I'm reading for like 2 or 3 chapters where their storylines are overlapping, and I'll completely forget about a character that I read like 5 chapters ago that I was really invested in, and I'll like forget where their story was, and then I'll flip the page to the next chapter, and I'll be like, I can't go to bed yet. I have to see where they were. I forgot where they were, and it really, really lends itself well to just flying. I mean, these books are really long. They're similar to Malazan, and I have these tiny faux leather-bound Barnes and Noble's editions that are like 1,000 pages, and I just fly through them because I can't put them down. Martin is just a master at keeping me hooked on to the story, and with so many different storylines to follow, so many different characters, so many different things going on at all times and all different aspects of his world, I am never, ever bored when I am reading a book by George R.R. Martin in A Song of Ice and Fire. And part of me is kind of putting A Dance with Dragons off because I'm one of the ones that have high hopes that he will finish Winds of Winter. I just don't know when, and I don't know if I want to join the crowd of people not trying to take anything away from those of you that have been waiting for years for this book to come out, but I don't know if I want to be a part of that crowd yet. I kind of like knowing that I still have an unread book in this series, but man, the anticipation is just getting too high, and I might have to dip back in. I'm thinking maybe towards the middle of the year, but we will see how the rest of the year goes. All right, next up we have Bold Ascension, Book 2 in the Sundred Nation trilogy by Von Roycroft. This is a self-published book, and beautiful, beautiful cover art. I feel like every time I bring these books out, the wraparound, beautiful trade paperback. I'm going to have a very difficult time getting this one to focus. I love these covers that just tell a story visually on their own, and these colors are amazing, and I'm sure once I read this I will understand why this scene was chosen for the cover. But book 1 was awesome. The Severing Sun was a ton of fun, and it was action-packed. It did not waste a lot of time getting to the action, and that action held up throughout the book. And there were many characters in that book that I grew to love, many that I grew to hate. It was a great example of a classic fantasy type feel, with a chosen one and a quest and some sword and sorcery. And I think that Von Roycroft's style of writing is very approachable yet beautiful. And he so very kindly sent me this one, so I can't wait to get to Bold Ascension. All right, next up, we have this absolutely stunning cover of The Prophet of Edan, Book 2 in the Edan trilogy by none other than Philip Chase. And very similar to Von Roycroft, both of these authors have a fantastic way of generating a classic fantasy feel, a classic fantasy story with some tropes and some creatures that we are familiar with. However, putting their own spin on it. And Philip is fantastic at taking some of these characters, some of these creatures, some of these storylines that we think we know what's going to happen, and putting his own spin on it, giving it his own stamp, and it feels unique. It feels like I'm reading Philip Chase. It doesn't feel like I am reading Philip Chase trying to be someone else. And that is a wonderful thing in any book where you're reading, where obviously all these authors that I'm reading have tons of influences from their own personal reading life. And I can't imagine as a writer how difficult it is to be inspired by some of these authors that, loom so tall in our genre and are so highly revered, but not feel like you're trying to write like them and pay them homage, pay them respect by noticing that you're influenced by them, but still spinning your own web and For Von Roycroft and for Philip Chase, for these two specifically, I'd have to say that they were both very successful in that endeavor. So that's it for the books that I actually own physically as parts of the series, and we're just going to go over 3 more that I don't own, so I'm either reading them electronically or listening to them via audio. And the first of which is going to be one of my favorite authors that I discovered in 2023, the 3rd book in the Indian Lakes trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Stephen Graham Jones, he is a contemporary horror author, and this series, the Indian Lakes trilogy, is the only thing so far that I have read by him. I have plans to read much of his other work, anything I can get my hands on, but this series was highly inspired by classic slasher films and is just a totally awesome homage to all of them. There are nods to countless classic thrasher and horror films throughout the first 2 books in the series, My Heart is a Chainsaw and Don't Fear the Reaper. All of these also have awesome titles, like fantastic titles. And Stephen Graham Jones has such a unique and very alluring voice. I want to read more of his style. I wouldn't say it's flowery or really purpley. It's nothing like that. It's just, it feels so unique, and I was instantly attached to his style and his tone and his voice throughout this. So he's got some very compelling characters. The plots of both books are very entertaining, and we are following in the first book a teenage girl that we get to know, and in the second book, Don't Fear the Reaper, we get to see her just a few years, I think 3 or 4 years later, but it's at a time in her life where she has graduated high school, so she's transitioning from high school into adulthood, so there's tons of change and growth in this character, and it's really awesome to see from book 1 to book 2, and I cannot wait for The Angel of Indian Lake, which is book 3, to come out March 26th of 2024. All right, we have 2 more, and the next is going to be Desperate Dispatches. This is book 2.5 in the Protectors of Pertani series by Mike Molman, who I believe I can officially call a friend here that I met on book 2. Mike is a fantastic guy. This is a self-published fantasy series, and I loved it. My buddy Usman from Bards and Books just did a fantastic Why You Should Read The Protectors of Pertani, which I will actually link in the description of this video because he does a tremendous job summarizing just what might make you interested in picking this series up. But Mike actually just recently, I think, released some information on his Kickstarter that Desperate Dispatches will be shipping out within the next month or so. So I don't actually have the book yet, but I will be getting it, and I am so excited to continue. He's created a character in Grame, which is the main character that we follow, that is just hilarious and is always getting into something, and somehow in this fantastical world that is heavily inspired by Celtic culture. So anyways, Grame wants to be a druid, and that's interesting in and of itself, but just the things that he gets himself into time and time again, and watching him make these blunders that get him into the situations, or just have to get out of them in some creative way where his back's against the wall, is so much fun to read. And Mike Molman has a fantastic sense of humor as well that really clicks with me. So if you're looking to explore some more self-published fantasy, I highly recommend picking up The Protectors of Pertani, and also Bold Ascension by Von Roycroft, and of course the Edan trilogy by Philip Chase. Last but not least, guys, and I don't know if I'm going to continue this one or not yet. I kind of want to get some feedback in the comments. So the next one is going to be Soulsmith, which is the 2nd book in the Cradle series by Will White. Now, I tried the first book in the series, Unsouled, and I didn't dislike it. I just worry that I'm not quite sure if this specific subgenre is for me or not, this kind of lit RPG progression fantasy, which I think is a really cool concept. I don't know if it is going to hold my attention. I think it might just be like a personal interest type of thing. But again, I've only read one book, and I know so many people love this series. I know it also doesn't work for some people, but I want to get your guys' feedback in the comments if you think it's worth me continuing at least the next couple of books. I don't think I will be prioritizing the Cradle series, but I might throw it in here and there just to make a little bit of progress and see if my interest in the series picks up. But it also might be one, I don't know if I'm going to DNF the series, but I definitely will be kind of taking my time with this one. So if you're a Cradle fan and you think it might be something that grows on me a lot more, please let me know in the comments. All right, last but certainly not least, guys, is going to be Summer Night, which is book 4 of the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I know so many people have this series once they are caught up or they hit changes. It's in like their top 5 series, and it grows so much on them. And I am very excited to continue with Dresden because I am really enjoying the ride so far, just through the first 3 books. And I've had many people tell me that Summer Night, the 4th book, is where things really start to pick up and the intensity gets notched up even more. So I love the character of Jim. I love a lot of the side characters that we get to follow, that Jim interacts with. And I think this urban fantasy world is something that is different enough from the fantasy that I typically read that it feels fresh, and it's a nice change of pace for me because these books, again, I just, in a different way, of course, than Song of Ice and Fire, but man, I fly through these books. It takes me 4 or 5 days maybe to read these like alongside other books. So I haven't done any of them on audio yet. I've done them all through ebook, which is why I don't own them. But I'm really excited to continue in Dresden, and hopefully it becomes one of those series for me that grows a ton on me and works its way into some of my favorite reads that I've ever read, because so many people the last couple of years have been sharing about how they thought the Dresden Files was fun in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they just don't know how it happened, but man, they love Jim Butcher. They love the series, and they just realize, wow, I think this might be like one of my favorite series of all time. So there's a ton of books. I think it's planned to be like 23 books or something. I'm pretty sure 17 of them are out. So I've got a lot of work to put in, a lot of pages to read, to catch up and dig out some of my way through this series. But again, I'm very excited to continue my ride in this urban fantasy Chicago world. So I guess I'm a hypocrite, and me sitting there thinking, man, how can you be in the middle of so many series? Well, I think I just named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I just named 10 series that I am in the middle of. Oh, and in my most anticipated reads of 2024, I added some series that I want to start. So maybe I have a problem. Maybe I need to prioritize finishing some of these series. But hey, I'm going to do it because now I realize how much of a problem I'm creating for myself. There's just so many things to read, and I want to read them all. I don't know how people just stick with one series. I used to be that kind of person, but man, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I want to grab this and grab that and try a little of this and try a little of that. So anyways, thank you if you are still here for watching. You get rewarded with the Comedy with Colin. Today's joke is going to be, what does the Dentist of the Year get? If you think you know the answer, add it to your comment. Where do you guys think I should prioritize my reads? With all of these series that I'm obviously in the middle of, I know that I named some series that people love dearly and might want to see me read and talk about on the channel that I'm already not talking about. So obviously I'll still be doing my discussions with Realm of the Elderlings and Malazan, but let me hear what your guys' thoughts are on the series that I'm in the middle of. If you're new and you haven't subscribed and you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I hope you guys are all enjoying what you're currently reading, and remember, you're always welcome in Colin's Corner.